Join us today on Beyond the Lair, where we have an incredible conversation with Chief Councillor Crystal Smith from the Haisla Nation. Crystal discusses leadership, partnerships, the evolution of the Haisla Nation, and what grounds her. Hi, my name is Gina Jackson. Welcome to Beyond the Lair.
And my name is Dean Montgomery, the co-host.
Welcome to Beyond the Lair. We are so excited today and honored to have the presence of the amazing and the forward-thinking and the trailblazing Chief Councillor of the Haisla Nation, Chief Councillor Crystal Smith. Welcome to our programming today.
Thank you for having me.
We are so thrilled to have you. You are as hot can be on the market in respect of public speaking, in respect of trailblazing, in respect of being a female in a decision-making and key decision-making spot with the Haisla Nation. And I think all eyes are on Haisla just for the progressive nature and respect of industry and how we can work together and what reconciliation really means. So thank you so much for being with us today.
It's an absolute honor, Gina.
Can you give our audience, because a lot of people know the person that you are today, and maybe you can give us an insight as to how you became that person and what your upbringing was and what kind of added to the values that you embody today.
I was fortunate enough to grow up in my entire life in my community. I'm one of 4 siblings. I actually have an identical twin sister, Leanna. I've got 2 younger siblings, Marnie and Matt. I grew up majority of my life with my grandparents while they were alive. And throughout my upbringing, my twin and I, my grandmother was very, very diligent in terms of teaching us essentially our Haisla Nuyum, which is our laws that we live by. You treat other people with respect. You don't look down on others. You only take what you need. And I kept those, and I always will keep those teachings very close. And it wasn't until I was older when I actually was able to read our Haisla law and thought, my grandmother taught me all of those as I was growing up. So very fortunate to have both her and my grandfather in my life for the time that I did. But grew up surrounded by family. They are the most important people to me, and keep my grandmother very close in my heart as I guess as I get to experience the fortunate place that I'm at, being our elected chief councillor.
Amazing. I think you look at, the landscape that you grew up in and how it reflects the culture of who you are and the people. But what was it like back when you were born compared to the industry that's been there today? And it must have just been this huge change that you helped shape. So can you tell me a little bit about that? And did you see it coming?
Well, the time that I grew up, there wasn't much opportunity in terms of Indigenous participation, and I've often described it as a time that it wasn't popular to be Indigenous. I grew up hearing about all the racism and how our people were unfortunately looked down upon in society. I was surrounded by my stepfather, who was very very diligent in terms of talking to my twin and I about furthering our education, because it was so important for us to have a different life. He was very educated. He actually excelled very amazing in post-secondary. However, unfortunately, he was a product of residential school. However, when you grow up in a time where you hear very negative, consistent feedback in terms of the outlook of your life and I guess the low bar that society would set for you, and just the lack of opportunity and I guess involvement for our nation in our own territory by other industry, it wasn't much of a hope in terms of the opportunity that I grew up having. I often thought I was either going to be the front desk receptionist, which I thought was an amazing job in our band office, which was located right behind my grandparents' house up on a hill that I'd walk by every day, or I was gonna be a janitor cleaning up there. The only exposure that I really had to any other career opportunities were my father telling me that we needed more teachers and we needed more social workers. And when I got into grade 10, 11, and being surrounded by that negativity of hearing what our statistics were, I didn't have the ambition to shoot past it at that time. So I mean, it's what it's like now is absolutely night and day for our people. 11, 12-year-old girls that are walking down the same street that I did when I was 11 and 12 have every opportunity and all the exposure in the world to seeing what career opportunities and what the world outside of our res actually looks like. I'm seeing our people travel the world and explore different places, gain their own homes at 20 to 25 years old. It's absolutely night and day. And it all has to do with, our previous leaders' vision in terms of wanting to be actively a part of our economy and our territory, and many other visionary leaders that fought for our rights in this country. And those are the backs that we stand on today in terms of where our communities, specifically where we are as Haisla, are today.
Amazing. I know that we had spoken a bit earlier, and maybe we can talk about this again, is how did you get started? So I know that in grade 10, 11, and a lot of, it's interesting because I worked for the Squamish Nation for 13 years, and it was sort of a default, a roll of the eyes default for youth to be like, oh, I'll probably just work for the band. I don't know, as a secondary default to there's no other opportunity. And that's sort of a last resort for them. And this is the way that I've seen that a lot of the young were thinking because of the temperature in government or the lack of progressiveness. And this is a decade ago, and now the Squamish Nation is thriving as Haisla is thriving. But how did you, when you take a look at somebody that you're saying that was in grade 10 or 11 thinking that you're going to be, front desk or what have you, and now you're the chief councillor of one of the most progressive nations in Canada.
Boy, were you wrong.
Wow. Holy, yeah, slightly underestimating yourself and your value at that point. And we'll get into that matriarch and being a female leader, but how did you get started? Because I think it's really important that this was not your plan, and this was something that, whether it's divine intervention or the Creator had led you to this journey. So please let us know.
And I don't want to make it sound like that was my vision of working in our band office was by any means negative. I absolutely, if I wasn't the chief, I could not imagine working anywhere else other than trying to improve the quality of lives and the programs and services with our nation. I actually, my first real job was with the school district in our local community, right out of college, and I had seen an avenue of wanting to being able to go back and work for our people. And I started actually with a contract as one of the support executive assistants within our childcare center. And soon realized that the childcare, it wasn't an option for me. I always visioned myself with a business administration career focus. And in order to do that, I actually took a leave from the nation and did a year internship with Rio Tinto in our territory. And when I returned back to the nation after that, found myself without an actual role and without office space. They had me at the time doing some policy work for some of our facilities in our community. And at the time, it was our first female chief councillor, Dolores Pollard's first term, and actually first year as the elected chief councillor. And I developed a really good working relationship with her when I was young, and she came back and into the office and had checked on me and asked what I was doing and told me to put what I was doing down and that she needed my help to get herself organized and situated. And that's where I started. I was the executive assistant to our first female elected chief councillor and served as support staff to our elected councillors at the time. I served for Dolores, and I also served for Ellis Ross, who was the elected chief councillor in 2011. I had taken a year leave of absence to return to college full time and to complete my business administration. And when I returned, it was like a completely different environment. Ellis was at the time raising the profile of the nation and of himself. And as I got back into the role of supporting him, I was curious as to why all these people wanted to listen to him speak. And I think when I joke about Ellis, I do want to make a comment that he was my basketball coach. Him and I had been friends for many years. So I was really curious to know why I was getting so many requests for him to travel across the country for people to listen to him speak. And so I had asked him, can you take me so I can learn more about what you're doing? So he agreed. He took me to Vancouver. And when I listened to him speak, it was a real glimpse of the passion that he had of wanting to have solutions for our people. So it just so happened to be an election year. And when we were on our way back out to the airport to go back home, I had mentioned to him that I was interested in possibly running for council, and he was shocked but supportive. So I took another leave of absence from my EA job, and I was elected as one of his councillors for a 4-year term. Within that time span, he decided that he was going to run for provincial politics. So he had to resign 8 months left of our term, and council had to decide whether we were going to go for a by-election or somebody at the table was going to replace him. And I still describe it. I was either really, really brave or really, really stupid. and I put up my hand. And then the next decision that I had to make was that the table I'd put in front of me was, if I was going to replace them for the 8 months, that they would highly recommend that I would run in that election. And I was successful. So 2017, June that year, I was elected as our elected chief councillor.
Did you think a lot of the learnings or the experience you had, I guess, through Ellis? I mean, amazing man for sure, and incredible speaker. And gosh, I knew him in those days as well, very young. Did you learn that from him, or do you think a lot of that came from your growing up with your family and you have incredible leadership skills? Everyone knows that. So where did you get that pedigree, do you think?
Or the other chief as well.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I definitely took pieces from both of them. I mean, Dolores was very, she would take the time and come and talk to me directly and give me pointers as to how she was responding to outside and even within our community. I spent a lot of time with Ellis when I was one of his counselors, and I took that time with him so that I could learn every aspect of the work that he was doing as the chief counselor. And I was very fortunate for him to be willing to have me tag along wherever he wanted to, wherever he was off to. And as he would sit on panels or do keynote, as he was asked questions, I would respond to them in my own head to see if I'd even similar responses to ensure that I knew and was learning what I was being presented. When he left, it was a difficult thing to experience. I actually remember standing in a hallway telling him, I'll put my name forward to be the deputy, and I'll take certain files from you so that you don't have to worry if you just stay. And he kept telling me my decision's made. And when I was elected, and I always had that in the back of my head. I had really, really big shoes to fill. And when I was talking to him about it, he told me, don't try to be like me. Develop your own. You have the skills within you. You have the ability in you. Hone them and make it yours. So, I mean, amazing advice. But it definitely took a long time for me to be able to gain the confidence. And I think the first 2 years was essentially a massive learning curve for me. I remember when I took over him, I actually told our team, I will not do any speaking engagements. I will not do any reports to any news reporter. Do not ask that of me. And I remember the first time that I had to, and I to describe the fear that I had, I was just actually talking about it the other night, how I would lie awake at night and literally wanting to cry or say I can't make it and I'm not feeling well. Yeah.
It's so humanizing to hear something like that, because you're such an iconic leader. And I think a lot of little youth are looking up to you. And I think to myself, so as a matriarch leader, and I'm sure you get questions like this all the time, like a matriarch versus patriarch type leader, and females over the last decade for sure. My nation, the Seashell Nation, has its first female chief, or Hagus, they call it, ever. And this is 2024. This is nuts, right? So that matriarch type of leadership where you really take in to respect community and feelings and listen to the community, not that the patriarch leadership is not the same way, but I think female and males are different. And I think you've got such great education being mentored by both. What is it do you find that it's different being looked at as a female leader, and especially with industry as active as it is within Haisla and with LNG and with all of the industry opportunities that are in there, because we're dealing with an older male dominated industry leaders and negotiators that are dealing with a very young chief that's female, that they may have that uncomfortable space with, because you're very humble and you're very transparent and you're very relatable. So how has it been for you?
Well, first of all, Gina, thank you for saying that I'm young.
You are young.
It has been and continues to be adjustments here and there as I do explore and meet more industry partners. I think for the most part, that I don't know if it is taking it into perspective that we are all just people and wanting, whether it's for yourself, for your family, or for your community, that we just all want a better place to live, more opportunity. It's whether whether people within the industry or in anybody that has any business relations in Kitimat look at me differently. I mean, I think it's. I think it was more of a concern from internally, internal to the nation, which I found quite interesting. I remember when we were dealing with existing proponent in our territory, which had been proven to be quite difficult to navigate over the years. When Ellis was leaving, a comment was made to me and in front of me that we were going to be walked all over now that he was gone. And I've held those comments over the last 7 years. And, growing up in a res and in a community, sometimes we could be our own worst enemy when it comes to how we treat one another. So I've always grown up in a time, and being a twin, I think added a little bit of that behavior to be directed to both my sister and I. I always took the negativity or the perception of negativity and used it as an inspiration. So when those comments were made and we were dealing with a proponent at the time, and it just so happened that they were going through negotiations for their union, and they had the operations manager at the time had requested a meeting with us, and I'd been elected maybe 2 months into my term. And so myself and the rest of our team had gone to their offices, where I was just essentially presented with a letter to sign, a support letter. And I had asked if we could have a caucus with just our team. So they all left, and I had told our team, if I sign this, our people would want me to resign tomorrow. Just for the fact that the support letter supported the shutdown that would impact the levels of a river that was vital to our Ulikan. And our people had been focusing on revitalizing the Ulikan within our territory for well over 10 years already. And so I had asked them for their support and their backup to tell the proponent that I would not be signing the letter. And I remember that moment quite clearly, because it was a time where I'm not too great with conflict, but it was such a challenge to be sitting in front of a proponent that had been operating in our territory for decades, and to say no. Our territory has had enough. Our people deserve better. And the feeling that I had. This meeting was about 7 years ago, and I still remember it today. So different perspectives. I've always taken the fact that I know, unfortunately, that women are perceived differently, but we always have the ability to rise to challenges with different strengths. And I literally keep 2,000 people in my head as I'm speaking to give me strength, and thinking about what my grandmother taught me.
We all know about the stakeholders that you are in the major projects that you own. Yay, which is just incredible, right? Like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about just the business side? I mean, you do so much in your role. So, but, when you say like your Yakwa Development Corporation, which it sounds like you're a major part of as well, but I don't know a lot what you're doing. So maybe you could share that with us in the audience.
Yeah. So, I mean, Yakwa is our nation's third kick at the can of separating economics from politics. They officially, separated from the nation as of April 1st of this year. And in that, I was actually not appointed to the board at first. We had two representatives from our council, our elected leadership, to represent them, represent our leadership on the Yakwa board. And I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately, I was actually just appointed to the board in September, I believe, of this year. So it's I'm about a month in. I've had one meeting. We've already kicked off some strategy session time that we can all get together and collectively put together what we've had from as when we were a part of the nation, and coming up with new opportunities that we can see where we can tap into in our local area. So it's exciting to see where we can, I guess, diversify. For many years, our nation has been solely reliant on the LNG industry in our territory, and I'm looking forward to when we start expanding to real estate in our local area. Tourism is another option that we potentially could explore. It's exciting to see, and I'm looking forward to being able to measure the successes in other areas.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of our viewers and our listeners are going to be wondering this question, particularly those that are proponents and partnerships and industry leaders and even nations. What is your advice and respect? Because I know that Haisla gets approached, especially at the very conception of industry and the evolution of everything that's been going on with LNG and industry within that territory. What is your advice to industry coming in, especially this late in the game, and trying to develop partnerships, authentic consultation partnerships with nations, not just yours, but others? What would be your advice?
I mean, I think in terms of our past experiences, whether it be forestry or any type of economic development, so often I hear the stories from our elders and our past leaders of how industry would come in and say and promise, overpromise, and hugely underdeliver. The trust level in most of our Indigenous communities is either non-existent or it's very little. I think when developing genuine relationships and wanting in another community and to succeed, it's the follow-through aspect of anything that you say, anything that you promise to do. That follow-through is so important. You develop, like many other relationships that you do in life. It's about respect. It's about trust, and just genuinely wanting to know what the communities want to accomplish and to follow through in terms of helping them, or just being there for them to succeed, providing that opportunity.
No, I think that's an excellent answer. And I always say I was the ECDev officer for the Squamish Nation, and Dean worked for a great company called Alltech. And it was just about really authentic consultation. And I would say to industry leaders that I'm friends with, and they say, I just don't know how to approach this nation or what have you. Number one, there's Google. You can take a look, like, where is the territory? I remember working for Squamish and people just thought we were up in Squamish. They didn't know it was Park Royal or West Van or North Van or Mount Seymour. What's the population? What is the language? What is the resources that are that are really powerful within that nation. Of course, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish, it's land, right? It's development. And I'm so happy to hear, because there's so much opportunity in your territory for tourism and for development. And it's just great opportunities, but really just be educated. And when it comes to entrepreneurism, find out who the entrepreneurs are within the territory. And before you have a deal, before you have a project that's coming up, engage early, engage consistently, and develop that relationship. And a lot of industry leaders, I find too, is they're so restricted in respect of their budget, so they can't monetarily involve themselves. It doesn't matter. Like, you have so many career fairs, you have so many initiatives with youth and with elders where you can participate on that social impact level, that all your wealth that you're giving is time. Maybe you can talk about that really impresses you with partnerships.
You know, I actually just had a young gentleman come to our community from Vancouver a couple of weeks ago, and he had reached out to me on LinkedIn and had said that I'm going to be in your territory. I'd love some time with you. And for the most part, when people message me on LinkedIn, it is either for a partnership or to find out who they need to talk to in terms of that economic development for opportunities with Cedar. And he had made the time. My executive assistant had scheduled a time while I was in community, and I had tried to ask him, here, who would you, what is it that you want from this visit? Here's LNG Canada, here's Cedar's link, here's the opportunity for employment. And he said, that's not what I want. So when he showed up to the office, it was quite an interesting conversation. He just simply wanted to come and talk, ask about our people, ask about our territory, and ask about our protocols. He's going to be moving to Kitimat. He would love the opportunity to bring some of our youth to Vancouver to see exactly what the job that he will be doing in Kitimat, and to bring them to their facility to give them the time to see if this is a career opportunity. He has no intention of any type of partnership. He had no intention of any type of employment opportunity. And I thought, this is meaningful. And I thanked him. He actually came up to Kitimat a day earlier than he needed to, just to take that 45 minutes with me to get to know, get to know myself and to be introduced to our community. And I thought that was so genuine. I thought, it's amazing to see that people are starting to get it, that we just want to be a part. We want our people to thrive. We want our people to be exposed to any career opportunity that can possibly bring them home to our territory to work. And I just thought that was absolutely amazing. I on a larger scale, I'm talking with another large proponent, and the advice of the Indigenous communities can be your largest ally, and we're probably your most important investment, not by your dollars, not by a budget, but just by your time. Come into our communities and get to know each individually, because we're all not the same. Get to know us, get to know the people, get to know our elders, and you'll see that genuine relationship from both sides, and it just helps you be more successful in your actual investment and in doing business in territories.
Politics aside, what are you going to do where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What do you do? Lead singer of the old McDonald's? Travel, maybe your own businesses.
He's going to absolutely love that you had mentioned that. He was just saying, if they ask about the guitars, don't be afraid to drop.
Don't worry, we were going to ask you about the guitars.
We were sitting, I don't know where Gene and I were out for dinner somewhere, and got a text, and it was the YouTube video of Jason and his brother, and I think they're doing Ring of Fire. It was phenomenal.
It was ridiculous.
Anyone listening, go put Old McDonald's. Is that right? Ring of Fire. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. They're pretty talented.
Yeah.
5 years from now, I've got about 200 days left in this term.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you.
Are you gonna run for chief again? Chief Councillor again? I'll put you on the spot.
Way too much pressure.
This has been quite an experience, and to be frank and to be honest, I don't know where I could get this type of fulfillment. I don't know where I can. I mean, some days are better than others. Some days are very, very stressful in terms of what we're trying to do for future generations. Other days are absolutely challenging. But when I went for lunch with one of my good friends from LNG Canada, he had asked me that, where I don't know if you'll ever find another position where you feel this passion and where you get the fulfillment from. And I thought, you're making this decision a lot more difficult for me to even fathom. So I still don't know. I have 2 daughters that and 2 grandsons that I take into consideration, and of course my partner Jason, and of course the rest of my family. I mean, they're not excluded from the impacts of doing what I do. They social media comments that tend to be negative about me, they take the hits right along with me. So I think some time with my close family and to have a conversation to see what I might plan to do is going to happen relatively quickly to determine whether I do this again. I just remember after my last election, my twin has been my absolute strength when I have to go through those. And the first one was quite a thrill. The experience of winning that was absolutely amazing. And after the second one, I was actually at her house when they were doing the count, and very fortunate that we have online, so we get the results relatively faster than we did when it was just a ballot. And I remember after they announced that I had won for the second term, she said, "We're never doing this again." So I don't know over the last 3.5 years if that possibly has changed, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the good news is the band isn't out of the question. They could use some beauty up in the front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a chance.
Absolutely. It's really interesting, Chief, because when we've talked to many different chiefs and said, what would you, we ask for really profound information because we absorb quotes from really important people in our lives, particularly. So Chief Gibby Jacob from the Squamish Nation, I just co-emceed the BC Achievement Awards with him, and he's just amazing. He has a documentary called Back to the Fire, and it's about teachings that are going to change the world. And it's his vision, and he's in his 70s now, and just to keep himself more relevant. But he was vetting a proponent who was a friend of ours, Brad Mason from Surfco. And when we first met him, and it was a really great introduction, and he said, "Okay, Chief Gibby, before I tell you, do you want me to tell you what I do now? I'm going to do a presentation." And Chief Gibby said, "Before you tell me what you do, tell me why you do it." And I think when somebody says that, people aren't prepared for something like that, and they really get emotional, and it really shows who they are as people. Because if it's just for the money and it's just for, radio station WIFM, what's in it for me? And I know in your position how you're pulled from, okay, what do you want? Like, I can make this short and give you this person and this person and this person and sharing resources. But I also do remember talking to a few chiefs and asking their advice. Like, what would you do differently after being chief for 30 years or 20 years or what have you? And all of them said spend more time with my family. And it's really interesting because you've got this responsibility of all of these people looking at you because you've got this momentum going. And how do you balance? Like, how do you balance? Because I know that you're so busy and tugged in so many different directions, but what do you do for you?
And now you're going to make me get emotional.
Oh.
When I've talked to my girls, so my oldest daughter Ashley is 22, my younger one's 17, and Emily is in grade 12 this year. And when I had first talked to them about what next, they don't know any different. I've been doing this, since 2013. My oldest daughter was, her comment back to me was it would be weird with you not being chief. And my younger daughter was more around the happiness, my happiness, which I thought was absolutely interesting. The balance portion is very difficult. I was just in Calgary, and my oldest grandson, Xavier, 7, he was diagnosed with autism during the pandemic, and he unfortunately was homesick yesterday with a cold. And around lunchtime, I got a text from my daughter after I'd done a panel, and she had said that he was asking for me. And so I FaceTimed him when I got back to the hotel, and the first thing he said to me was, "Nan, home now?"
Oh.
And I know that I'll never get this time back with them. So when I am home, I am absolutely make it a practice to be with them every moment that I possibly can. And when I'm at home, I moved out. I signed my house over to my older daughter in care of my grandson. I felt it was important for him to have consistency in his life. And I moved into an apartment complex with my younger girl, which was, I felt like I was moving to a different country, although I was literally a 3-minute drive away from them. But when I'm at home, he is with me almost 24/7. If it's on weekends or the summer, and if he's at school, I take him to school. But it's being mindful to have that time that I can with them. Never missing birthdays, regardless of what's going on or who needs me. I make it a point to be home. I had an opportunity to go to Japan in September, and although she was turning 22, I thought at first, yeah, I can miss a birthday. And when the time came down to it, I actually told the organizers I can't do it. So it's taking the time that I do have and focusing in on making every opportunity count with the time that I do have with them.
Oh, that's so nice. And thank you for being vulnerable. And I think that's the strength and the leader that you are, is that you have that transparency and vulnerability and respect for your people and respect for your family. And I think no matter what you do, everybody's going to be watching, and it's going to be the right thing because it comes from the heart and everything that you do, and everybody sees it. And you think you can probably just go across and keynote 10 times a year and live your life, and you're still going to live your best life and still be the best influence because you've worked so hard since I've known you in leadership to be the person that you are. And I'm sure that your leadership style has maybe changed. Maybe you can explain that from the very beginning of becoming chief to your leadership style now. What is that like? It's obviously more confident, and it's, because you've got you're down in the ground now. But what has changed, and what have you learned?
When I first started, I was consistently a part of majority of everything that we were doing. I was in meetings with architects. I was in meetings with government funding people. I was, and I don't think that was as a part of trying to be everywhere and everything at once. It was more of a learning opportunity. And things have changed dramatically within our administration and our supports that we do have. At the time, it was being able to bring back a lot of the detailed information in order to get some of the projects passed at our council table, and just ensuring that I knew details that were relevant and important. The change today is we have way too much stuff going on, and the fact that we have a lot of good people. And I think if anything, it's confidence in myself, but more confidence in the people around us to do what is in the best interest of our people, not only of today, but future generations. And I truly believe that as our people are seeing the changes in our community, that when they come to work with the nation, that they feel that they want to be a part of that, and they work very hard and diligently to ensure that we are doing what's in the best interest of our people today and 7 generations. So I think it's building a lot of trust and knowing that other people will do good by our people.
Mm-hmm. Sound like a true leader. Beautiful. It's great.
There's a really great book, and it's by an author by the name of Dan Sullivan. And it's called Who Not How, and it's how to do what you're doing, but you have to trust in the who's to do the marketing and the accounting and the negotiations and the legal and what have you. So to be able to not necessarily give up the power, but to entrust in the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And I'm sure you've seen many people come and go, where you've got your circles of the people that you can trust and that are productive and that are positive in the advancement and the journey and the focus that you're driven and around you.
Yeah, I have definitely seen my share of people unfortunately go. So but we do have good people for sure.
Mm.
What are some of the mandates of the Haisla Nation in respect of, is it entrepreneurism? Is it youth education and empowerment? What is it that are some of, I know there's so many progressive initiatives that are going on with your nation, but I know that 50% of nationwide of memberships are under the age of 25, pretty much straight across the board in respect of youth. So maybe we can talk about some of the initiatives that your nation's doing.
There are so many, and it honestly is so amazing to witness, because just seeing where we came from to where we're at today. And I think one of the main initiatives that our entire community is focusing in on is our culture and our language. The importance of preserving all of the knowledge in our community is absolutely at the forefront of our people's minds. We are unfortunately losing our knowledge holders quite quickly, we unfortunately just lost one of our elders that actually taught me in elementary school our language, Ivy Maitland, and it's hard to see. It's hard to watch them go, and it just puts more urgency and puts that much needed pressure on us to do the work that's necessary in order to preserve the rest of the language and knowledge that I think we have about 19 fluent Haisla speakers left today. So that's a huge push on our part. We've been able to commit revenues to support a culture and language department, which is the first time we've ever been able to do that. Right now, our leadership is being poked and given that mandate from our people to build a longhouse, or a big house, as they're referred to, so a cultural center in our community, so that we have a place that is solely focused on our culture, our feasting system. So that's one aspect that's very exciting to see and to witness. My twin sister Leanna is actually the culture and language teacher at our local community school, and it's been amazing to witness what the change can be, the confidence in somebody change as she's learning our language, and it's so emotional to hear her speak fluently or sing a lullaby to our grandsons in our language. It brings back so many memories of listening to my grandparents speak our language in our house.
I think there's so many people, youth, like your grandson, like the young women and men and people from the Haisla Nation that look up to you. And it's not the 13-year-old girl that's walking down the res thinking, that before industry, before opportunity, before initiatives, before money, and things like that they can look up proud and walk proud because of leaders like you and those predecessors that came before you that have added to your sparkle and your shine and everything that you're doing. And I just thank you so much for being who you are. And I look so forward to seeing you soon in the next week. And congratulations, Jason and yourself are the ultimate power couple and just so lovely. And it's so happy to see you happy.
And we're going to be coming up to do a youth entrepreneur camp, courtesy of Rio Tinto and the Haisla Nation. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, talk about full circle that they provided that internship for a year, and now they're providing an opportunity where we can bring a Bears Lair youth camp to your territory and have you participate in that and spend some more time together. So thank you so much for being on our program today.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to having you guys in community and to take a look and be in our new youth center. It's exciting.
Amazing. Thank you for being with us today.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Lair. Please follow us, download this episode, and follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok.